at St Paul's Cathedral in central London, a service of thanksgiving to mark the Queen's 70-year reign. But the Queen herself was absent after experiencing discomfort during yesterday's celebrations. Her Majesty was represented by Prince Charles, who joined other senior royals for this special Jubilee church service. It was the first public appearance in the UK for Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, in 2 years. During the service, tributes were paid to the Queen's years of service.
Thank you for staying the course. Thank you for continuing to be faithful to the pledges you made 70 years ago.
And as you can hear, the bells of St Paul's are pealing and will be pealing continuously for 4 hours to mark this momentous occasion.
And our other main headlines this lunchtime. It's 100 days since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And on the second day of the first test at Lord's, England are bowled out after another disappointing display with the bat.
Welcome to the BBC News at 1 from St Paul's Cathedral, where a service of thanksgiving honouring the Queen's 70 years on the throne has been taking place. Prince Charles is representing the Queen, who withdrew from the event after experiencing discomfort during yesterday's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. We understand that the Queen is watching the service at home. It's the first major royal event that Prince Harry and Meghan have attended since stepping back from official duties. Our first report today is from our royal correspondent, Nicholas Richard.
A service of thanksgiving at St Paul's Cathedral without the person for whose long years of service those thanks were being offered. The Queen was absent, but other members of her family were present, and among them the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, appearing together in public for the first time in Britain since they withdrew from royal life and moved to California more than 2 years ago. There have been well-documented tensions since then, sharp comments in interviews, but this was a day for the family to come together. Harry and Meghan were taken the length of the central aisle in St Paul's to their seats with other members of the family, a family with which they have had only limited contact since they chose to leave Britain. With the Queen absent, it was the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall who processed through the cathedral to represent the Queen and lead the thanksgiving for her reign.
We come together in this cathedral church today to offer God thanks and praise for the reign of Her Majesty the Queen, and especially for her 70 years of faithful and dedicated service.
And it was that theme of public service that was at the heart of the event. The congregation included 400 members of NHS staff and other key workers from around the country. But it was the service of one person over 70 years that was highlighted in his sermon by the Archbishop of York. He recalled one of the Queen's principal private interests.
We all know that the Queen likes horse racing. And Your Majesty, I'm rather assuming perhaps you're watching this on the television. And I'm afraid I don't have any great tips for the Derby tomorrow. But with endurance, through times of change and challenge, joy and sorrow, you continue to offer yourself in the service of our country and the Commonwealth. Your Majesty, we are sorry that you're not here with us this morning, but we are so glad that you are still in the saddle, and we are glad that there is still more to come.
There was an act of commitment led by young people from all the countries of which the Queen is head of state.
rejoicing in the life and reign of Elizabeth, our Queen.
And finally, a service of thanksgiving for a monarch who is showing the signs of her 96 years, concluded with the national anthem. Nicholas Witchell, BBC News.
Well, I'm joined now by our royal correspondent, Daniela Ralph. And Daniela, the Queen has been absent for this service, but the crowds have seen other members of the family and other national figures.
That's right. This has been one of the biggest services of its kind in a number of years, particularly when it comes to members of the royal family. And in itself, it became a slight judge of how the public mood was from the crowds outside St Paul's Cathedral here. When they caught sight of the Prime Minister and his wife here at St Paul's Cathedral, there was a distinct sound of booing from the crowd. It was also, of course, a chance to see the Duke and Duchess of Sussex today, Harry and Meghan, who we have not seen as part of any official royal engagement now for 2 years. And again, with them, there was a mixed reaction from the crowd here, some cheers as they went in, but some booing from the crowd as they left as well and lingered on the Great West Steps here of St Paul's Cathedral. Inside the cathedral, Harry and Meghan were sat with Jack Brooksbank and Princess Eugenie, their close friends, so that was a comfortable place for them within the cathedral. We didn't see on camera any exchanges between Prince William and his brother Prince Harry, so no obvious things to see there in terms of the brothers. It's likely we will see more of Harry and Meghan over the weekend.
Daniela, many thanks. Daniela Ralph there. Well, the National Service of Thanksgiving here at St Paul's this morning celebrated the Queen's 70-year reign and lifetime of service. But it was also an opportunity to reflect on her personal faith and how she's reached out to those of other beliefs. Our religion editor, Aline Makboul, reports.
It's not just St Paul's Cathedral. Over the coming days, right across the country, prayer services will be held for the Queen.
We pray for the Church and the world, and especially for our patron, Her Majesty the Queen, on this special week of celebration of her life and work.
The Queen holds the title of Supreme Governor of the Church of England, and there's a sense she's led by example.
She's dedicated herself to the country, dedicated herself to the religion as well, and she lives her life by it.
She teaches us to be constant, to believe.
Of course, she's appointed bishops and archbishops as part of her role, but every year in Christmas broadcasts, there are insights into the way the Queen's faith guides her more broadly. And those who spent time in her presence will talk of moments when that shone through.
And I just found myself kneeling down and saying to her, "Will you say a prayer for me?" At this time, she stood up. Because normally you kneel, she sits in a chair. She stood up. No word was said. About 3 minutes. And she said, "Amen." I will never know what kind of prayer she prayed, but I just felt within myself, actually, I'm in front of a very, very humble, holy person.
In recent decades in particular, the Queen's worked to include those of other faiths or no faith, visiting temples and synagogues and gurdwaras. And in 2002, she became the first monarch to visit a British mosque in Scunthorpe. Afzal Khan was the man who presented her with the Quran then. He says now that in the months of fear and division following the 9/11 attacks, that visit had a profound impact.
We were suffering in a way that we were frightened. We needed some sort of support from someone. And that support came in from the Queen. And that gave us something that made us part of the British society. After her visit, we were feeling that we are the same. Doesn't matter if anybody shouted us terrorists, we're still British.
It really had that big effect on you?
Yes, it did, yes.
It's why today's service at St Paul's wasn't just to give thanks for the Queen's reign and her faith, but was also to pay tribute to a commitment to foster unity. Ali Maqbool, BBC News.
Apart from the celebrations here, people in many communities are having parties to mark the Jubilee and to enjoy the bank holiday. Our correspondent Andy Gill is at an event in Preston in Lancashire. Andy.
Yes, welcome to Bixby Street in Preston, in the Broadgate area, a short drive from the city centre. The Queen, of course, is the Duke of Lancaster, so street parties here have a special significance. You can see the bunting, the red and white, the purple for the royal colour as well. The preparations for this street party were delayed this morning because it absolutely threw it down in Lancashire this morning, but they are now getting things together. Robert Gowling is one of the organisers here. Hello, Robert.
You okay?
Why did you want to have a street party here?
Because it's a small street, everyone knows everyone. For the last 2 years, like everybody else, has been stuck inside with COVID. Everyone's had a bad time of it. So it's just really it's also to celebrate, obviously, the Jubilee, because 70 years, everyone's like been brought up with it.
What does the Jubilee mean to you?
Well, it's special, isn't it? Because, you know, it's the Queen's. I've always known one Queen, one monarch. So that's consistency, isn't it? So. Yeah, it's a bit of, you know, it's a bit of getting everyone together, but the Queen, yeah.
And what kind of activities are you going to have here this afternoon?
Well, we've got some old-style games. We've got Hook a Duck. There's some other Tin Can Alley, which we've yet to put up. All sorts of different things. So, yeah, it'll be good fun.
Yeah, Robert, thank you very much. From Bixby Street in Preston, back to you.
Andy, thank you very much. Well, I will be back a little later in the programme when this glorious peeling will still be going on, but now it's back to Lukwesa in the studio for the rest of the day's news.
Reeta, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. The Ministry of Defence says Russia appears to have the initiative over Ukraine in the battle for the eastern region of Donbass. Exactly 100 days since the invasion began, it says Russia holds about 90% of the Luhansk district, which makes up half of the Donbass, and is likely to seize the remaining 10% in the next few weeks, even though none of Moscow's original war objectives have actually been achieved. Our correspondent James Waterhouse reports now from Kyiv.
A bubble of innocence in a world ruptured by war. However, Thadir doesn't know any different. He was born on the 25th of February, the second day of this invasion. So what kind of Ukraine will he grow up in?
Our country is really good, and maybe it's like price that we need to pay for our kids to live in a better world, in a better country.
Victoria ended up giving birth in this hospital basement, shielded from 50 other people. Despite the turbulent start to her son's life, she's certain of the values she wants to instill.
I told him to appreciate and to be grateful to people of his country and trying to keep special Ukrainian spirit.
100 days ago, the front line came to Kyiv's doorstep. Towns like Irpin bore the brunt, with people and pets desperate to get out.
But the Russian troops ultimately couldn't get in. There is still, though, a giant question mark over whether they will come back for Kyiv. That hasn't put the city off, though, trying to heal.
For some families, that will take time. One Ukrainian soldier killed while defending the city of Sloviansk is taken to his final resting place, followed by his mother, Vladislava. Bogdan Krivitsky was 26 years old. His first name means given by God because his parents had waited so long to have a child.
We have to win. There is no other way. There is no other way. We're going to win.
This collective grief hasn't killed the fight.
We don't need the sky, ground or sea to be closed. Let them come here. It will be easier to kill them on our land. We need weapons. We'll take care of the rest.
That report by James Waterhouse, and James joins me now from Kyiv. James, the next 100 days, just looking ahead, what are they likely to bring in this conflict?
Well, first off, I think it's going to be at least 100 days in this war as it drags on. President Zelensky, at the start of this invasion, stood outside his office with his closest allies and said, "We are not going anywhere." That's proved to be right so far. Today, he stood in the same place with his top team, claiming victory will be ours. Whether he will be right is not clear. Over what time frame isn't clear either. The Kremlin has been equally vague, claiming to have achieved a number of objectives so far, adding it will continue with this invasion, with this war, until those objectives are achieved, suggesting it's not going to concede or retreat or give back any of the territory it has already seized, a fifth of Ukraine. All of this suggests that this war will drag on, and it'll put Ukraine in the position of deciding whether to concede territory in the name of peace, and if so, how much.
James Waterhouse, thank you very much. A committee of MPs has warned the Ministry of Defence that it should either scrap or fix its controversial Ajax armoured vehicle programme by the end of the year, or risk compromising national security. The American-made reconnaissance vehicle had been due to enter service 5 years ago, but the Army doesn't expect them to be ready before 2030. Well, our correspondent Tim Muffet is at the Ministry of Defence. And Tim, this programme has been hit by a lot of problems.
Yes, there's been a litany of failures, according to the House of Commons Public Accounts Committee. Now, the Ajax project was supposed to deliver for the Army hundreds of state-of-the-art armoured vehicles featuring the very latest digital battlefield technology. In 2014, the MOD signed a £5.5 billion contract with American manufacturer General Dynamics to deliver 589 vehicles. But since there's been a series of delays. There's been poor planning and poor management, according to the committee. Excessive sound and vibration within the vehicle has led to many soldiers being injured. And 5 years after they were supposed to have entered service, so far, no deployable vehicles have been delivered. The 26 that have been can only be used for training purposes. Now, the committee has warned the MOD it needs to either sort this or abandon this project this year to avoid wasting any more money. So far, over the past 12 years, more than £3 billion has already been spent. And the MOD has also been warned there are potential security risks because the Army is having to rely on the Warrior-class armed vehicle, which entered service back in 1987. Now, the MOD says it accepts many of the points raised and that it's seeking to address them. It also says it won't be handing over any more money to the American manufacturer until it's convinced that it will receive the hundreds of armoured vehicles it's been promised.
Tim Muffet, thank you very much indeed. And apologies, we had a couple of sound issues on that line. Now, in the United States, President Biden has made an impassioned plea for Congress to impose stricter gun laws following a string of mass shootings in the United States. Speaking from the White House, he said that guns are now the #1 killer of children in America. Nomia Iqbal reports from Washington.
As President Biden walked to the podium, 56 candles burned behind him, each representing victims of gun violence in all US states and territories. He said everyday places in America were now killing fields, and enough was enough.
And let there be no mistake about the psychological trauma that gun violence leaves behind. Imagine being that little girl, that brave little girl in Uvalde, who smeared blood off her murdered friend's body onto her own face to lie still among the corpses in her classroom and pretend she was dead in order to stay alive.
This comes after President Biden visited Uvalde in Texas and met the families of the schoolchildren and teachers murdered in their classroom. Previously, he had visited Buffalo in New York, where 10 people were shot dead last month in a supermarket. On Wednesday, 4 people were shot dead at a medical center in Oklahoma. Some swift action is happening. House Democrats have voted for a bill of tougher gun restrictions, which would take into account many of Mr. Biden's proposals. But Republicans are against this move. Some even brought their own guns to the meetings about the bill.
Here's a gun I carry every single day to protect myself, my family, my wife, my home. This is a XL 6-hour P365. Comes with a 15-round magazine. Here's a 7-round magazine.
This is why gun reform in America is difficult. Senate Republicans need to be on board for any laws to be passed. They think any restrictions threaten American people's constitutional right to own guns. President Biden's called their lack of action unconscionable. So far, the only area of possible bipartisan agreement involves red flag laws, which let authorities take guns from people at high risk of harming themselves or others. 19 states have them. But critics say that just doesn't go far enough to stop America's unique nightmare of enduring gun violence. Nomi Rickbell, BBC News, Washington.
The actress Amber Heard is planning an appeal after losing a defamation trial against her former husband, Johnny Depp, over allegations of domestic abuse. Mr. Depp is currently on tour in the UK with Jeff Beck and was cheered as he joined him on stage in Gateshead last night. Our correspondent, Olivia Richwold, was there.
Johnny Depp might not have spoken publicly since the outcome of the libel trial against his ex-wife, but it doesn't mean he's been quiet. This was Depp on stage at the Sage in Gateshead last night. He was playing alongside friend and guitarist Jeff Beck, and the Pirates of the Caribbean star received a noisy and largely positive reception.
Out of this world. The whole, we can't, seriously, we can't describe what the atmosphere was like in there. It was totally, completely
You are
stunning,
so cute.
stunning.
And I thought it was cool to see him so close, but he's not really got the best singing voice. Let's put it that way. I think we came for Jeff.
He added to it. I'll say that. But Jeff Beck was just outstanding.
Good morning. Johnny Depp and his ex-wife Amber Heard had been locked in a high-profile libel trial in the US after she claimed she was a domestic abuse victim. The jury sided with Depp, and as news of the result came through, the actor was seen having a drink in a Gateshead pub. Fans started arriving in the early hours to catch a glimpse of him, but he was unusually bashful, deciding to sneak out of his hotel unseen in a van with darkened windows. But it didn't put fans off, some of whom waited for hours.
How long are you prepared to wait to see him? Well, I've been waiting for like a couple hours now, and prepared to wait for a week. I'll wait forever to see him.
Yeah, I'm waiting and hoping that we'll catch him when he comes out. Yeah, because that's probably going to be your best bet now when he comes out. Like,
You're actually going to wait till the end of the concert?
Absolutely, yeah.
Their patience was rewarded, and after the end of the concert, he met fans at the stage door.
About 24 hours longer, absolutely buzzing. First thing that he signed, I could honestly cry.
Because you have been waiting here for a long time.
I've been waiting since 9 o'clock last night, so I'm ready to go home and go to bed, and I am so happy.
Jeff Beck and Johnny Depp, who've made an album together, will be back on stage in Glasgow tonight. Olivia Richwold, BBC News, Gateshead.
Cricket now, and on the second day of the first test at Lord's, there was another poor performance from England with the bat in their game against New Zealand. They were all out for 141 in their first innings in reply to the tourists' 132. But New Zealand are in trouble in their second innings. Here's Joe Wilson.
Don't dawdle by the Grace Gates. Day 2 of the frenetic test. Get inside. England are batting. You never know how long that might last. Blink, and he's missed it. Well, that was Stuart Broad gone. Sometimes the toughest thing about being captain is watching. The next sight for Ben Stokes was Ben Folkes, out for 7. Well, who's next? Via the M6 and M1, Lancashire's Matt Parkinson rushed into the team as a concussion substitute. He made 8. But that was England 141 all out. Job superbly done by New Zealand. England just 9 runs ahead, right lads? We're bowling again. And would you believe it? You probably would. James Anderson with immediate success. Will Young leaving right now, but was batting impossible for everyone? Well, there's New Zealand's captain, Kane Williamson, one of their all-time greats. And remember, these runs were now taking New Zealand ahead. And remember, New Zealand are World Test champions. Someone surely would play a substantial innings. Well, there's Tom Latham on the attack. And he can play.
Cut away, beautiful.
But Matthew Potts, bowling on his England debut, again proved his value. Well held, Kane Williamson out for 15. There was more. This delivery just grazed Latham's bat, and Potts had struck again. And this test match just refuses to slow down.
So here is the situation at lunch on the second day. Yes, still just the second day. New Zealand in their second innings are 38 for 3. That's a lead of 29. Now, I'm sure I remember a time when test matches were often sedate, even at times, dare I say it, even dull. This one is great fun while it lasts. It's scheduled, theoretically, for 5 days. Right now, that seems merely a theory. We're underway again here at Lord's in 15 minutes. Quite frankly, who knows what happens next?
Joe Wilson, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. OK, let's rejoin my colleague Reeta Chakrabarti at St Paul's Cathedral in central London. Hi, Reeta.
Lukwesa this weekend promises celebrations from the world of music and dance, with a concert at the Palace tomorrow night and the Platinum Jubilee Pageant taking place on Sunday afternoon. It'll be led by the Gold State Coach through the streets of central London, where it'll pass by Buckingham Palace. Our royal correspondent Sarah Campbell has been speaking to some of those involved in the event's finale.
On an East End factory site next to the Thames, a dragon has come to life.
She breathes!
Gliding up the Mall, the giant puppet will symbolise the enormity of the role taken on by the young Princess Elizabeth, played by dancer Janice Ho.
It's basically about young Princess Elizabeth, and she has this sense of freedom at the beginning, but then she meets the dragon, and then how she deals with that. Is there like a sense of fear, or how she sort of like play with it and become friends with it?
And how excited are you to be playing Princess Elizabeth in the pageant?
Oh, I'm really, really excited. I mean, this is such a big opportunity.
Around 10,000 people will take part. There'll be dancers, vehicles, puppets, and much else, all telling the story of the Queen and the UK through her long reign. And riding on open-topped buses, the great and good from each decade, including Dame Kelly Holmes, double Olympic gold medalist and honorary colonel of the British Army.
The pageant is going to be amazing. I've already spoken to a couple of people that are going to be on our bus, and we're very excited. We can't quite visualise what it's going to be. It seems like it's going to be more like a carnival, I would expect. It's just amazing to be one of the, I think, 150 national treasures. It's a weird thing for you to say personally, but it means a lot to be part of it.
Children will play a big part. These pupils from Luton will be dressed as the flowers which decorated the Queen's coronation gown.
I'm very excited. I'm nervous, and this is a once-in-a-lifetime dream.
She's been on the throne 17 whole years. That's a lot. And, you know, I'm very proud of her. She's done an amazing job. She's a very good queen.
Leading the pageant along the Mall, the Gold State Coach. It transported the Queen on Coronation Day, and images from 1953 will be shown on its windows.
Having paraded up the Mall, the musical finale of the pageant, led by Ed Sheeran, will take place on that stage. You can just see through the barriers there. That's Sunday afternoon. The night before, Saturday night, musical royalty will play their own tributes at the party at the Palace.
It's so overpowering, you know, I'm so happy just to be part of it, because there was a point when I thought, oh no, they don't want me, and I was over the moon when I was signed on.
After 2 years of a pandemic which has kept people apart, the stage is set for a weekend which aims to bring people together once again. Sarah Campbell, BBC News at Buckingham Palace.
Well, despite the glorious pealing of the bells of St Paul's, this second day of celebrations has been more sober and reflective than the festivities yesterday. But that hasn't stopped big crowds from gathering here this morning, unable themselves to attend the service, but eager to catch a glimpse of the arrivals and departures. And as we've heard, this has been the first occasion in 2 years that Prince Harry and Meghan have been here in the UK at an official event. And there was a very mixed reaction to them from the crowd, some cheering, but some booing as well. Well, I'll be back at 6 from Buckingham Palace. But on BBC One, we now join the BBC's news teams where you are. Bye-bye.